Hello, folks. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. Welcome back to The Gospel Truth. And we're going to leave for a moment the teachings of the Chuckleheads, September 23, Revelation 12 sign, and zoom right into the original teachings of the Christ, our ongoing series. And we're up to chapter 19. And I do want you to catch the videos I've done today about Chuckleheads, L.A. Marzulli, Chucklehead, Scott Clark, and the absolutely crazy doctrine of September 23, Revelation 12 sign. Hello, Lois Collins. Hello, Kayla Divine Channel. And we're going to talk today about the original teachings of the Christ. Hello, Gnostic Spirit. We're going to talk about the original teachings of the Christ, and I'm going to go right into that. And this is what we do in chronological order. We look at the teachings of the Christ, and we expound on them straight from the gospel truth. So we're up to now the book of Mark, chapter 7. And this is not what you think, because you think Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's not the way the New Testament was written. The New Testament was actually written, Mark being, we already went through the book of James, which was the first book of the New Testament. And we already went through, where's the glasses when you need them? We already went through the book of James, which is the first book in the New Testament, believe it or not. We already went through the book of 1 Thessalonians and 2 Thessalonians. And we went through Corinthians, which were next. And then Mark, number 5, written around 60 AD. So we're looking at the original teachings of the Christ from 60 AD, and we're in Mark chapter 7. And this is what he says. I'm pretty sure you can see this pretty well. Then the Pharisees came. Certain of the scribes came from Jerusalem. They saw his disciples eat bread with unwashed hands, and they found fault, which is what religious people do. The Christ and his apostles are out doing things, and the Pharisees sitting on the sidelines were finding fault. Because the Pharisees and all the Jews won't eat unless they wash their hands. And many other things there be which they have to receive, like washing cups, pots, brazen vegetables, or vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees subscribed to ask him, why don't your disciples do according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? And I think this ticked the Christ off a little bit. I think he'd about had all the fun he could stand, because they've been out doing a hard day's work and upwalk these whitewashed fences and say, why are your dudes eating with unwashed hands? And then the Christ answered, and he says, you know what? Isaiah was right about you hypocrites. These people honor me with lips, but their heart is far from me. Think of that. That's the Christ saying, Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites. Well, let's go to the original language on that, verse number 6. So you can see what the Christ was actually saying. He was ticked off. And there's nothing wrong with being ticked off. You just don't want to, I think the Christ said, be angry and sin not. But he said, rightly, nobly, rightly, honorably, did Isaiah prophesy of you. He told about you. He foretold about you. So Isaiah was right when he crack-a-lacked these guys, and the Christ was right when he crack-a-lacked them again. And he said, you hypocrites. Well, what did he mean by hypocrites? Well, he meant a hypocrite, a dissembler, a person staging a dissembler, a pretender. He called them pretenders. He called them pretenders. He said, listen, Isaiah was right when he talked about you chuckleheads. He said, you're hypocrites. You honor me with your lips, but your heart is far from me. And let's look at that as well. You honor me with your lips, but your heart is far from me. With the lips, there's a lot of this, a lot of yak, yak, yak. With the lips, they honor, value, honor, give reverence. But the heart, their character, their intention, their center is far away. And it's easy to give lip service and then run off and be far away. And that's what these September 23, Revelation 12 chuckleheads are doing too. They give lip service. Oh yeah, we believe the word, we believe the Christ, but then they run off after some Jesuit doctrine. And he says, you're in vain do you worship me. You're teaching doctrines which are the commandments of men. Uh-oh. Are we going to get in somebody's business? I think we are. You teach as doctrines. Your instruction, your teaching is the precepts of men. Injunction, ordinance, precepts of men. You're teaching as you're teaching for doctrines, you're teaching for truth, you're saying that it's the gospel truth, but all it is the precepts of men. What else are the people that are doing this Revelation 12, September 23 sign doing? They're saying that this is of God, and it's demonstrably only of men. It's the doctrines of Jesuit men. And they're passing them off as the doctrines of the gospel truth. And you're letting them do it. You won't call them on the carpet for it. What's the matter with you? And that's what the Christ was saying they were doing. Teaching the teachings of men and calling them the teachings of the divine. And we should not be standing by and letting this happen. It's vain worship. Let me look back at that. Vain worship. It is vain worship. In vain. In a very unreal way, to no purpose. They worship me. So they may be worshiping the Christ. Anyone that says they're worshiping the Christ, anybody that says they're worshiping God, but is teaching doctrines of men, their worship is in vain. It's to no point. Because the Christ is saying, I don't want any of it. If you're going to say you worship me and teach the doctrines of men, I don't want any part of it. I think L.A. Marzulli and Scott Clark ought to take notice. Because if you're teaching the doctrines of men, then the Christ says he doesn't want any part of it. Leave me out, he says. Wow. That's pretty powerful stuff. For they lay aside the commandment of God and hold the tradition of men. And many other like things that you do. So anytime that people lay aside the teachings, let's look at that we got to look at that in the Greek, verse 8. So anytime you lay aside an ordinance, an injunction, a command, or a law of God, Theo, the Elohim, that means male and female. Look at that. Male, female, male, female. Anytime you lay aside a precept of the Elohim and hold to the traditions, instruction traditions of men, you're undoing your own faith. So what about these people that are holding onto the Eucharist when the Christ said, no more blood? What about these people that are holding to original sin when the Christ said, you got the spark of divinity within? What about these people that are holding on to communion when the Christ said, forgiveness through water baptism, no more blood, no more sacrifice? You are worshiping him in vain if you're doing those things. If you're laying aside the commandments of the Elohim and are continuing to do these silly things, you are making your faith null and void. The Christ says you're rejecting the commandment of the Elohim in order to keep your own traditions. You're rejecting the commandments of the Elohim in order to keep your own traditions. The Elohim said no more blood. No more dead guy Jesus on a stick. No more dead guy Jesus stick. No more human sacrifice. No more eating of blood. No more cannibalism. He stopped the sacrifice. He said, we're not going to do blood sacrifice anymore. Forgiveness through water baptism. And yet you continue your little Jesus cookie and Jesus drink in violation of the commandment of the Elohim, the injunction of the Elohim, the teaching of the Elohim. It's no wonder you fall for people like Marzulli. It's no wonder you fall for people like Clark, because you're still accepting, embracing the commandments of men, the instruction of men over the plain injunction of the Elohim. It's no wonder you run after every sign, because you're wicked and adulterous, just like Christ said. It's that time of eschatology, and you're junkies. You need a fix of something fantastical, because you haven't learned yet to separate yourself from the teachings of men. And you're drawing teachers to yourself because you're so wanting stuff fantastical. Teachers are coming around to give it to you. It's a sad situation. I just have to shake my head. And you make the word of God of none effect through your traditions. You make the word of God of none effect through your traditions. Think about that. Look at this. Read them and weep is really what it is. Look at this. Think of the power that you have. You can make void. You make void. Annul, make of no effect, cancel. What are you canceling and making of no effect? The word, the logos, the word. That's what the divine Elohim, the word did. The word of the Elohim. Again, Elohim, feminine, masculine, male and female. You're making their words of no effect, null and void. Why? How? By the instructions and the traditions of you, of men. Do you see why I get so upset about this? And do you see why I'm up 19 hours a day bringing you this stuff? Because you're actually killing and making of no effect the words of the Elohim in your life, because you continue to follow these stupid, ridiculous, idiotic traditions of men. And I keep leading you to water, hoping you'll drink. I keep leading you to the gospel truth, hoping you'll think. And very few of you do. You'd rather go to the sensational. You'd rather go to the exciting. You have a lust, you have an addiction for eschatology and the spectacular, just like Paul said you were going to. It's enough to make me just want to go fishing. And I don't even like to fish. It's enough to make me want to throw my hands up in the air and say, forget it. But I can't do that because there's at least 7,000 of you here that haven't bent the knee yet to Baal. And how interesting is it that Elijah said that I have 7,000, that there's 7,000 that hadn't yet bent the knee. Very interesting. Very interesting. But when you follow the teachings of men that you know are against the teachings of God, that don't line up with the teachings of God, you make the word of God of none effect. And if you keep blocking out the word of God and the voice of God long enough, you'll just quit hearing it altogether. And that's what this 7-year period we entered into with this eclipse is all about. Learning to hear the word of God, learning to understand. Sorry, I missed the mute button. The words of the Elohim, the Father and the Mother. honor your father and mother. Because come 2024, who you are, what you are, is who you are and what you are. So what is it that really defiles a man? He said, listen, you guys, understand. Let's go to verse 15. He said, listen and understand. Listen and understand. There's nothing that comes from outside a man. Nothing from without side can defile him. Nothing can come from outside of you, enter in you, and defile you. What does this entering mean? Nothing can come from outside and enter in. To go into, to enter, to intervene. That's interesting. The implication really is food, metaphorically eating, but it has that's some interesting stuff. So what you put into yourself doesn't really cause you to be defiled, unclean. So you can't say, oh, they eat this, or oh, they think that, or oh, they believe this, oh, they drink that, and that makes them unworthy. But it's the things that come out of the man. What comes out of a man? Those are the things that defile him, make him unclean. So it's not what goes into you, but it's what comes out of you. And of course, he's talking about the things that people say, the actions that people partake in, the things they actually do. It's not what you eat or what you drink. It's what comes out of you. He says, if you have ears to hear, let him hear. It makes perfect sense. And we say he's really talking about food because we get here into verse 17, and this is exactly what Christ talks about. They say, yo, what were you talking about there, Christ? And he says, don't you understand that whatever enters into the man cannot defile him because it enters into his heart or his belly? It enters not into his heart, but into the belly and goes out into the draught, purging all meat. So really this argument that we have about, well, you shouldn't eat meat, you shouldn't eat pork, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that. And there are health reasons and there are moral reasons. But at the end of the day, the Christ said, you can't make yourself holy by not eating meat. You can't make yourself holy by eating meat. Because what you eat gets purged. But what comes from within? Evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness, bad teachings. These things come from within, and they defile the man. So it's not what goes into people, it's what comes out of people. And you say, Jeff, you're too hard on L.A. Marzulli, you're too hard on Scott Clark. Oh, really? The Christ just said that what comes out of a man's mouth shows who that man really is. L.A. Marzulli may be a great guy. Scotty Clark may be a great guy. They may have been great guys. But foolishness is coming out of their mouth. Bad doctrines coming out of their mouth. Jesuit teachings coming out of their mouth. And these two are also part of the blood cult. They're part of the human sacrifice cult. They're part of the cannibalism cult. And it really shouldn't surprise me. It really shouldn't surprise me that these guys are doing what they're doing, saying what they're saying, because it just shows what's in them. And it shows that the doctrine that they're believing is showing forth. And it really shouldn't be a surprise to me whatsoever. Really shouldn't be a surprise to me whatsoever. Really should not be a surprise to me whatsoever. The original teachings of the Christ. Why are you so worried, Jeff, about what people teach? Why are you so worried about what people say? Why are you so worried about the doctrines that they come up with? Now you know why I'm so worried. Because that's the way we tell what's really true about a person. That's how we know if they are aligned with the gospel truth or if they're aligned with some other gospel. What they say, what they do, how they act, what comes out of their mouth. That's what determines if someone is aligned with the gospel and power of the Christian whistleblower, because that's who we are, and that is what we do. So let's take a quick look into the chat room since we're here and see what we've got there. See if there's any good questions. See if there's any good answers. All right, here we go. Wow. I'm always impressed and surprised and humbled by how many people are there. We're doing our best, Jeff, says Renaissance Woman. I don't doubt that at all. Hope I don't get in trouble, Kay said. I don't know what she did. It's taking me to a level of energy and connection I can't put into words. I'll get spanked by Jeff for leaving a link on his last video. I don't spank. I just delete. It's pretty easy. I think Jeff is talking to the listeners of the videos after the fact. I'm really sick of hearing about September 24th BS. Well, get ready, Jen, because you're going to be hearing a lot more about it. Somebody's got to step up and call this crap. Somebody's got to raise the standard against it and help people realize that they're being done in. It would be great. I welcome them to come on the channel. I'm not going to hold my breath, though. Let's all be bad girls and bad boys. If they're true believers of the shite, what's their intention of putting it out there? I get you. Did you censor yourself, Kay? Cloudy in Seoul, South Korea. Had a reading by Heidi last night. She was spot on. Heidi Vandenberg. Excellent. She'll be coming on and doing Elvis's chart. Virtual donuts for everyone here at Bible study. Can I just be single? Yes, you can, Recovering Soul. I'm going to marry myself. I told you I found the one and I'm him. A lot of pedophiles in the Jesuits, no surprise. Only weirdos are single by choice. Well, call me a weirdo. I am a weirdo, absolutely. New paradigms. Jeff, you may want to put the gospel truth in your video titles and or descriptions to possibly reach more people who search for it. Will do. My stream's not blipping in and out. I'm rock solid. Well, it is a little iffy. We're getting some blowback from that storm over in Texas. LA just hit the kill switch. That's funny. I got you, Sunshine, on, but I don't agree with you. So thanks for the suggestion, but not gonna happen. Denise, it's my pleasure to be able to do some stuff to help you in some small way. So thank you. Hey, Tiffany, nice to see you here. Vitamin C and zinc. I just had it's in and out, back into this place. Might be a little dusty. It's all right. I saw Tamu and Gina on here earlier. Nice to see everybody. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your answers. I may be back later on today with some more information, but we are doing it. Oh, Sunshine on, keep showing up. It's all right. We can disagree and still be friends. Absolutely. No, it's not. We don't require lockstep agreement. And please do like on your way out, everybody. And that's the original teachings of the Christ, chapter 19. We're going to keep doing that until we get all the way through the New Testament. And we're just looking at the actual teachings of the Christ in this series. We've got a lot more where that came from. If you want to contact me, you can contact me through this channel. You can contact me through my website, jeffreydarty.com. Thanks, Joyce. I hope that you came through that pretty well. And I know I've been through them here in Florida, so I know they can be difficult. I appreciate you folks for tuning in. And we will be continuing to blaze on. We'll be continuing to say what no one else is willing to say, what no one else has the guts to say, and what no one else has the wisdom and experience to say. That's why we do what we do. That's why this is the gospel truth and the power of the Christian whistleblower. And that's why you're here. And that's why I'm up 19 hours a day doing what I do. And I'm Jeffrey Darty. That's been the gospel truth about the original teachings of the Christ. Those of you that are seeking truth, I salute you. And we'll see you again real soon. And until then, remember, you don't have original sin. You got the spark of divinity within. So be excellent to yourself. Be excellent to your neighbor. And that way we can all be excellent to each other.